Yo! What's up, y'all? It's Zems, and welcome back to another reaction video. Today we're going to react to a new content creator that's called Death Door. It's called This Is What Happens When You Betray El Mencho. I do not know who El Mencho is, but he sounds like he could be a godfather, dangerous, cartel type dude. We're going to find out. We're about to get some education going on in here. But, man, that's why I can't be in any gangs, cartels, or anything like that because, bro, I'm telling on everybody, bro. Once I get arrested, bro, the whole gig is up. Your address, where your mom stay, your grandma stay, uncles, half cousins, bro, all that's going down. That's why I don't do crimes. I can't go to jail. I can't do prison. That's just me. Take it for what it is, man. If you want to see this video in entirety, make sure you swoop down in the description box, click on the link and watch the video in entirety because I'm going to be pausing, stopping, and talking through the whole thing. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Reprisal Zems, and welcome to the Crow's Nest.
Tonight, the DEA is offering $10 million for information leading to the arrest of the Mexican drug kingpin known as El Mencho.
If you think death is the worst thing that can happen to a person,
think again.
If El Mencho wants you to work for him, you have two options. Say yes or be killed.
Because the fate that El Cholo suffered at the hands of El Mencho and the CJNG was worse than death. The final days of his life were filled with immeasurable agony. The manner of his demise was sickening, and the details of how he died will make your stomach turn. In fact, it's safe to say that when death eventually came for the man, it was an act of mercy. Who was El Cholo, and what did he do to deserve his terrible fate?
To find out. All I know is it's either yes or you're dying.
CJNG cartel. Before we dive into who El Cholo is, we first need to address the organization and the individual he betrayed, Jalisco New Generation Cartel, otherwise known as the CJNG. If you are familiar with this cartel, then you know that no one in their right minds would willingly betray this insane, violent criminal.
That's a cartel, look like a military.
El Cholo did. In fact, he didn't just cross some low-level underlinings of the cartel. He betrayed the boss himself, the fearsome and infamous El Mencho. Once again, if you know nothing about this man, then use this as an introduction. El Mencho is the devil, plain and simple.
Tú ya sabes con
El
quién
Diablo.
traes la bronca. Para que sepas, aquí seguimos buscándote y no quitaremos el dedo del renglón.
Go ask anyone who runs the most brutal cartel. No, who runs the most brutal criminal organization in the world. They will point to El Mencho and his CJNG. Under his guidance, the organization has committed crimes that would make the skin of ISIS terrorist organizations crawl. Because it's not so much what crimes they commit, it's how they commit these crimes. And the ridiculous part is, they're not even half as big as the Sinaloa cartel or any of the rival cartels in the country. They're small. And yet, despite their diminutive size, they are the first and so far the only cartel to take on the Mexican government and technically win. Beyond this, they are known for their willingness to use weapons in warfare and their battles against practically anyone who stands in their way.
So you're telling me the smallest of all cartels went against the Mexican government and won. So man, that's some scary shit. I always thought they were showing the, military police getting ready to fight, fight back against the cartel. No, bro. That was his unit. That was his people, bro. In them cars and all that gear and stuff, bro. He's not playing around. I really want to know what made him in his right mind think to betray this guy. So I want to find out what it is. It could even be something small because I don't know if you guys remember back then when MySpace and stuff like that was happening. They would show videos and stuff like that. Even YouTube had videos of the cartels when people used to get their head chopped off and stuff. It was real. Some people did little things to the point you would think that's not enough to kill somebody, but to them it's a big deal and it's crazy. So I'm really curious to see what happens.
There's a rumor, probably true, that they once tried to buy a belt-fed M60 machine gun in the US, and they've gone on record as the first cartel to bring down a Mexican military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade. If all this sounds impressive to you, it shouldn't. There's nothing pretty about this cartel, because when you consider how they treat their victims, including the civilians that they kidnap, it will knock the taste out of your mouth. Legend has it that CJNG recruits cannibalize their victims during the initiation process. Children, pregnant women, the elderly, no one is too innocent or too precious to be violated. They've assassinated more government officials than anyone is willing to acknowledge, and there is no doubt that they were behind the assassination of Aristoteles Sandoval, the former governor of Jalisco, back in December 2020. All of this chaos, all of this bloodshed, every hit and every kill is sanctioned by El Mencho, the man that El Cholo betrayed, the same man whom, surprisingly, was El Cholo's boss and closest friend.
What movie is this they showing? If anyone knows the movie, let me know.
El Mencho started from nothing, born into poverty and making a living for himself through grit, determination, and both feet in the drug trade. He wouldn't meet El Cholo until he became a sicario for the now defunct Milenio cartel. At the time, they both protected the drug lord Armando Valencia Cornelio, alias El Maradona. And it was during this time that El Cholo became something of El Mencho's right-hand man. He was there when El Mencho tried to hold the Milenio cartel together as their bosses either got arrested, died violently, or both. El Cholo witnessed El Mencho reorganize the cartel and rename it to the CJNG, filling the gap that the Milenio cartel left. With El Mencho in charge, everyone fell in line. He had a quality that his dead bosses recognized, admired, and employed him for. But it was also the same quality he had used to take some of them out. And it was a quality that would spell a new age of chaos and violence for the state of Mexico. On one hand, El Mencho was materialistic, disciplined, and thoroughly organized. On the other hand, he was violent, brash, and crude with his techniques. It was this unique ability to be those two things at the same time that struck fear of God in the hearts of his enemies. For example, most cartels have the habit of making their victims disappear. The Sinaloa cartel famously had El Pozolero, a stew maker, who, for more than a decade, dissolved thousands of bodies in acid for the Sinaloa cartel, essentially causing tens of thousands of people to disappear. But El Mencho encouraged his cartel to do the exact opposite. Every corpse presented an opportunity for spectacle. Instead of making bodies disappear, they would butcher them and throw them in public streets or hang them from bridges while recording the process.
So what he was trying to do, like, no, I don't want to get rid of the evidence. I want people to know it was us. Like, leave signs, leave bodies, leave body parts, leave a flag, leave something behind so that they know that we did it, and that I can put fear into their hearts, fear into the government, and fear to anyone that comes across anybody that, represents this organization or represents this cartel. So it kind of reminds me of the movie. I can't think of the movie right now, but it was a movie like that where this dude feared, bro. He would just look at people and they know they were about to die, or they knew something was about to happen to them or their family members. Another good movie that you guys should look into. I don't know if it's kind of like the same thing, but it kind of gives you a look of how the cartel kind of is. It's called El Infierno. I think it's called like the fire or the blaze or something like that in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I think El Infierno is like the fire or hell, maybe. But then again, last time I seen it, it was on Netflix. You just have to check your Netflix and see if you have it, because all Netflixes are different. I don't know if you guys knew that, but some offer more episodes or more movies than some don't.
They would then post it on social media for the world to see. El Cholo was at the center of these activities. He knew firsthand what El Mencho was capable of because he was the one who carried out most of his hits for him. In fact, when El Mencho seized power of the CJNG in 2011, he became the boss's personal sicario. And maybe this is why he betrayed him. He had gotten so close to the man in charge that he lost perspective. El Mencho was a hard man, a man who gave answers and expected you to follow without question. But El Cholo was a man with his own ideas. He wasn't a yes man. And it was only a matter of time before those ideas became seeds of rebellion. And in the world of cartels, the wages of rebellion is death.
Yep, you can't be a follower.
Soon enough, El Cholo began doing things he shouldn't do. His first act of rebellion came when he conducted hits without El Mencho's permission. El Mencho was, and still is, a strategic man, and he wouldn't have appreciated the gesture. It didn't take long for a loyalist named Marcos Hernandez, the cartel's financial operator, to snitch on El Cholo. El Mencho was furious at El Cholo, and El Cholo was furious at Marcos. However, the situation wasn't irredeemable, and there was a possibility that El Mencho would have forgiven his erring sicario if El Cholo had simply asked for forgiveness. But you see, El Cholo was on a path of self-destruction. He assassinated Marcos and essentially declared war on his former boss. Rather than making amends with El Mencho, El Cholo defected, took men from CJNG with him, and went ahead to form his own cartel, Nueve Plaza Cartel.
So there were people that felt the same way that he felt, El Cholo felt, but they wasn't too scared to do it, so they waited until someone else kind of stepped up and did it, and they were like, okay, we're going to go with you because we don't like the way you run things. So it's kind of like he was a person that was kind of like, hey, I'm down with you, but I don't want to be that dude that's always like, yes. Everybody knows that one guy that's like, they say yes to everything when they know it's not right, even if it's at like a job, right? When they're trying to protect their employees, and the higher up is like, oh, well, I need this done, I need that done. The person just gonna be like, yes, sir, right away, sir, yes, sir. And then you got the people that's like, no, that's no, can't do. But we can do it on this date if that works best for you. But in the cartel, you can't do that because it's like, if I'm telling you to do something, you're going to do it or you're not going to be alive to do it anyway. So it's like, it's a lose-lose situation. So I don't know, man. Who's to know what's going through his head at the time? But you should know this dude is not going to stop at nothing until he finds you. So betraying him was a bold move, bro.
The cartel civil war. El Cholo's betrayal dealt a heavy blow to the CJ&G. El Cholo took a handful of CJ&G generals with him, including the CJ&G's head of logistics, Eric Valencia Salazar, aka L85. There's no telling exactly how El Mencho felt about the exodus of betrayal that happened, but I can tell you what happened next. El Mencho declared war, ordered a hit on El Cholo, and began attacking his Nueve cartel, attempting to cut it down before it could ever become a real threat. But these were his former men and colleagues. It's safe to say that they already knew his tricks. First of all, the declaration of war didn't faze El Cholo one bit. Secondly, the attempt on his life by El Mencho's hit squad failed miserably. It was so bad that El Cholo murdered the head of the hit squad sent after him, undermining his former boss once again. The war that followed was brutal enough as it was, but somehow it was about to get a lot worse.
That's wild.
Because El Cholo formed an alliance with the enemy, the Sinaloa cartel. With this alliance, they quickly found access to resources that allowed them to level the playing field. Now, they could fight the CJ&G on their own terms. Now it was all fair play. The Sinaloa cartel began using El Cholo's Nueve cartel as a hit squad that was mostly targeted at the CJ&G. They even allowed them to take control of important sections of the Jalisco territory and some of Mexico's western states. The war that was tipping in El Cholo's favor. It was beginning to look like El Mencho would be defeated by his former sicario. The war that broke out was brutal and extensive, and unluckily for residents living there, Guadalajara was the stage of it all. And as both factions fought their bitter battle, innocent people were caught in the crossfire. In 2018, 3 film students in Guadalajara were driving home from school when members of the CJ&G kidnapped and killed them after confusing them for members of the Nueve cartel. Public buses were set on fire, broad day shootouts were routinely conducted, and the body count kept on rising until the entire city was filled with the stench of corpses and the fear of its residents. Meanwhile, El Cholo just kept on getting stronger and stronger. Whatever El Mencho was doing was not working. However, just when El Cholo seemed like he had won both the battle and the war, the worst thing happened. On March 18, 2021, El Cholo was captured by armed members of the CJ&G on the orders of El Mencho himself. In the video, you can see him sitting calmly flanked on all sides by armed sicarios as he delivers a confession. My name is Carlos Enrique Sanchez Martinez, aka El Cholo. I am originally from Guadalajara, Jalisco. I'm here because I'm an enemy of CJ&G. I met with Omar Garcia Harfuch in the federal district so that he could give me his backing. This is due to us both being after the CJ&G, and he did give me his full support. But he told me that he needed something relevant in return so that I could operate with his support and his people among the city. The Omar Garcia that
they wanted him so bad that they were in the streets killing people that even looked like they were part of the cartel, bro. It had nothing to do with it, bro. And you could be telling the truth. But in order to protect themselves, they was like, hey, we got to get rid of them. You never know. They might be lying, bro. That's crazy, bro. They were killing like innocent people just to get to this dude. And the fact that he was sitting there on camera, you could just tell like he was defeated, bro. Like you could just see it in his eyes. Like he knew the worst was coming. Like he just knew it. Like you could just tell by the way he was talking, the look in his eyes, the way his body was slunched over, bro. That's some scary shit, man. I think that has to be one of the biggest fears in the world when you know you're about to die. It's different. You be like, hey, I wake up today, you don't know if you're going to die. You know you're about to die, bro. I can't even imagine.
El Cholo implicated in this confession happened to be the sitting Mexico City police chief at the time. But it didn't end there. El Cholo rounded it off with a warning. Anyone that is still left supporting me, it's best for your own good to just start taking care of your families so that you don't end up like me. No one needs to tell you who wrote the confession, but the message was properly received. The individuals and officials he revealed immediately began to defend themselves. Omar Garcia Harfuch refuted the claims in a tweet. Regarding a video in which a criminal kidnapped by other criminals made comments about me, I reiterate that I will not be distracted by false messages from criminals. My commitment to society is firm. Fight crime to be the last consequences. All of the other public law officers he mentioned in the clip were fired. This was El Cholo's downfall, and he had taken his allies down with him. After this video, the sicarios behind him proceeded to extend his torture over the course of a few days. This is an image of El Cholo before the CJ&G captured him, and this is what he looked like just a few hours into his torture. El Cholo's gruesome death. 2 days. That's how long El Cholo was tortured. It's unclear where the sicario started from, but the common knowledge is that he was kept alive for the full length of those 48 hours while he was pushed into the very edge of what anyone should endure. First, his legs were destroyed. All the bones were broken and shattered into bits. Then, the toes on his feet were chopped to bits, and the toes they missed were grinded. His broken ribs suggested that it had been smashed in. And this is where the whole situation becomes confusing, because no one is sure whether all of this was done before, during, or after his body was savagely slashed and his eyes were gouged out. And did I mention he was also electrocuted? But while everything I just mentioned is incredibly horrifying, none of it comes close to what happened next. Still alive, while still breathing, El Cholo's tongue was clamped in a vice and pulled viciously out of his mouth. It was only after this that he was shot twice in the head. His body, or at least what was left of it, was wrapped in a plastic bag and dropped on a public bench in true CJ&G fashion. So how did the Sinaloa cartel respond? They said nothing, did nothing. What about his cartel, the Nueve cartel, and his buddy Salazar? Same. Said nothing, did nothing. El Mencho had promised everyone who betrayed him that he would send a message. El Cholo's death was received by everyone, hand-delivered, unmistakable, clear as day. Since then, no one has dared to cross El Mencho like El Cholo did, and from the looks of it, it seems like no one will anytime soon.
Well, let me know down in the comment section if you want to see more of Death Door's videos, because that was pretty damn good. Yeah.